Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 693 on Tuesday, the 30th of June, 2026. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And this week you'll hear us talk about how the house roof fire is a bit worse than was presumed. In new car news, you will find one brand is moving up the social ladder. And in points of interest, you will just go back in time. And first, though, we have some follow-up. And we start with the news after the second heatwave this year alone, one that was breaking records that have stood since 1976, or even just the day before, as it turned out for some of them.
Sorry, as a Scot, that's fine for those of you who are in England and the south. Up here in Scotland, it was just kind of normal summer. It was rainy and windy. You lot, just because the BBC keeps bleating about it, doesn't mean it's everywhere. It's the same with snow. You do the same with snow.
And the headline of the East Anglia bylines is, as Britain bakes, ministers quietly park plans for solar carports. We talked about this last year because there was a consultation on plans for new build car parks, large new build car parks, to make it mandatory that they fitted solar canopies along the lines of what France do.
Yeah.
Now, they've had the results of the consultation. And the problem with the results of the consultation is people have, or organisations have jumped up and down and go, oh no, it's going to cost too much. And oh no, not every site is the same. And oh no, there shouldn't be something that's just blanket, one size fits all. Despite the fact that the government themselves have worked out exactly how much a place operating said car park, if they have a building, will save on electricity costs.
And amazingly, France manages to make it happen. You know, France, where if something is a silly idea, they tend to sort of jump up and down and shout about it and then cancel it. And they're absolutely not, because these canopies are really a win for everyone. Well, there's one group I've worked out they probably aren't a win for, and that's probably the problem. But for those of us who park cars, parking underneath means shade. It means the cars don't get as hot, and also in the winter they don't get as cold because they're sheltered from frost and all of that kind of thing, which we then need to scrape off. It means they use less energy to heat or to cool them and defrost them and stuff, whilst at the same time being able to generate quite a lot of electricity over the top. There's a park and ride near here, by the way, that has a setup like this, and that's in Scotland. I say there's work a treat in France. The only group I can work out, and you know, if you're a supermarket or something, by the way, you can then feed in the power and you can save up to 28,000 or around £28,000 a year in electricity costs by using land that would otherwise be just sitting there and baking. You can also collect the rainwater and use that for flushing your toilets and all these kind of things too. There's also, or watering your plants, all these kind of things.
That's only for 80 spaces though.
The 28,000?
Yeah. You go bigger, you are saving more.
Yeah. And price of solar panels is coming down and down and down. The only people I can see who would not benefit from this if they put it over a car park is some of the sort of big management property ownership companies that build out-of-town retail estates. If you just got straight up, here's a supermarket and here's the car park for that supermarket, then it's probably all owned by the supermarket and you're just fine. They're going to want to save that electricity.
Yeah.
Where you have ones that are owned by property groups and property management groups, then there's no benefit to them, because the places, if any of the places round about want to harvest the electricity, well, then that's their problem. They're benefiting from it, not the property management group. And it's the property management group who have to fork out to build it in the first place. I bet there's at least 1, 2, maybe 3 of these big property management groups that lobbied the government against these.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, and that's how this came into being. I know that's terribly cynical. It's very much of an Andrew opinion rather than an Alan opinion, maybe. But I reckon that's what happened here. I bet if you went right back to root cause analysis, that's what would be happening, was property management groups who make political donations say, well, I think it's a terrible thing to do. Whereas for the rest of us, it is an absolute win, including companies that own their own car parks.
Yep.
End of rant. From me, anyway.
Okay, do you want to take us to Germany, where it seems there's just widespread panic at the moment in some companies?
Well, for years and years and years, we wondered how Volkswagen could keep spending, keep growing, and whatever else, despite all of those all of the fines and all of the money that everyone decided that they owed them as a result of Dieselgate.
Mm.
And I think what we're finding now are the results of the lack of liquidity that has brought around. And that's taken 10 years start to finish.
Yeah.
A bit less, because it took a while before all the fines came through and stuff. But I think we're really starting to see the crunch of Volkswagen. I think it's been going on, maybe behind semi-closed doors for a little while. We've definitely seen lots of hints of it.
Yeah, they've been trying to hide it.
Yeah. According to this PA Media article on Yahoo News, that'll be linked in the show notes, of course, they are drawing up proposals for a major overhaul that will see about 100,000 jobs cut over the next few years. Now, that's double what had been mentioned before. They talked about 50,000. They talked about a lot of natural wastage type stuff as people left and things. But now they're really looking to make 11 billion euros or 9.5 billion pounds of cost saving before 2030.
Yeah. That's not the only stuff, though, that they're considering, because they're also considering to increase the number of German plants they're going to shut up to 4, which is immense. It was bad enough that they were choosing 1, but the fact they're talking about 4, they're also seriously considering spinning off the Volkswagen and their component divisions to be separate entities.
Yeah, and that protects them should stuff fall down.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Are they spinning off Volkswagen because they think that's the weakest link? Or are they spinning off Volkswagen because they want Volkswagen to be protected if the other elements of the group drag down?
Well, the thing is, if you spin off the other elements of the group, like Ford did with AC Delco, I think I've got the right one. That could have been General Motors. Visteon was Ford, wasn't it? I think maybe it was Visteon was Ford and AC Delco was General Motors. Somebody will correct me. But that also then means that it's easier for them to subcontract to other manufacturers as well and build and sell parts for them and then continue to make money that way. That is a possibility. And just to add in, by the way, there are some, supposedly, according to Oliver Bloom, the chief executive, 28,000 agreements for staff to leave by 2030 already. And most of that relates to headquarters in Germany too. Yeah, I think the whole general drop in the global car market, focusing on particularly in a couple of formerly key markets, has stopped them being able to weather what they probably thought they could weather whenever all the Dieselgate fines and everything were coming in pre-COVID. And I think from then on, it's been very difficult to recover and obviously reach the volumes and the profit margins that they were at before, which could have stopped all of this happening, really.
Yeah.
But the new plan, full new plan, so we will hear about it very soon. I'm sure it'll be a follow-up, was going to be presented to the supervisory board on the 9th of July. Volkswagen right at the minute, or at least a spokeswoman for Volkswagen, has said that it's not commenting on the speculation because, and it's worth emphasizing this maybe more than we did at the start of the story, lots of this is based on speculation and hearsay.
Yeah.
9th of July, we'll find out what the actual plan is. It'll be interesting to see how different it is.
Or not, yeah. Letting the info out now to take the sting out of it.
Well, exactly.
Anyway, I'm going to stick with Germany.
And stick with Volkswagen, ultimately.
Yeah, we're just going to move over to Porsche. And they have now come out with their Strategy 2035. Now, the naming in this is going to be a bit of a theme in the way that they have picked the language that they have all the way through this. So don't expect anything sexy.
Or whichever big four consultancy came up with it, because it's probably the same slide pack as was given to someone else.
Yes, quite. But to understand how bad it is for Porsche, at the moment they have a profit margin of 1.1%, which is awful, I think is the technical term.
And worse than that by Porsche standard.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. What they've done is they've presented this to investors, this plan, and they are going to, apparently, and I'm going to quote here from the Car Scoop's article, linked in the show notes as ever, the strategy rests on 3 pillars that sound simple enough: brand and consumer, products and technology, and company and operations. Show me a company that doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, God. I've chosen the same ones for very large retail companies. We've used exactly the same. I'm sorry. I cannot, shoving my normal professional head on, I cannot think of anything more. I mean, the trouble is, right? It's kind of right, but also, why are you making a big deal out of this? This has been the pattern for strategies for at least 15 years. I've used the same flipping ones with large retail companies and stuff. I don't get why this is a big deal.
If you're suddenly talking about this, what were you doing before?
Well, that's it. You think, well, what kind of absolute cluster was it? But the thing is that I think that this is just gloss on the top, and this is somebody showing a shiny slide pack.
Yeah.
Because it's not about what you do, it's how you do it. Because that's how you change what the money is. But admittedly, there have been some changes. They're saying that they're not chasing volume for volume's sake, which kind of puzzles me, given the chasing volume is what actually made Porsche any profit in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it didn't do that, it was flushing money down the toilet quicker than the 911 Turbo at the time would, or a 930 Turbo would spin off a damp corner.
Well, how many people, when others objected to Porsche building an SUV, or any company building an SUV, and then people would immediately leap in and go, well, how else are they supposed to make money? That's the money maker, which means they can make the fun stuff. That's become the expected job. They're now talking about that they're going to double down on sports cars, drivers' engagement, performance, and exclusivity. That is completely opposite to what got them all the money.
Yeah, it is quite an interesting one, that, because I think the trouble is that the sort of fast SUV market, which got the money, is actually now a hotly contested space with loads and loads of other companies in there.
Well, an EV goes as fast as the...
Well, that's the problem. So what you need to do is really focus on the original Porsche and dial back to that, I guess. But it's the equivalent of centralized or decentralized, wasn't it? Some consultants will have been in and they'll have said, well, the solution here is obviously to do the opposite of what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
They're off to do the opposite of what they do at the moment. This happens constantly with big companies. As is the way with big companies, somehow they survive despite themselves.
Yeah.
And despite strategies and tactics and management that does this kind of thing, and they make it and they manage. And I really hope that that's what's going to happen to Porsche. And sometimes just the way the tides turn, or very often just the way the tides turn, means the let's flip to what we weren't doing before tactic works. And I really hope it works here.
Yeah. Well, because just looking at and this is all about the first pillar of the profitability and brand and customer. They're talking about the CEO has been quoted as saying that they want customers to buy a Porsche because they genuinely want one, and not because it just happened to be the right lease deal.
But it's the right lease deal because they hold their value and all these things because they're a Porsche. Yeah. That's why. It's you buy it because it's that, not because it's the equivalent Audi on the same platform. You buy the Porsche one, and that's why it's more expensive, despite the fact that there's not really a lot of reason it should be more expensive in many cases. And by the way, I would like to say, if I sound like a cynical, terrible person, I would choose a Porsche. I'm one of those people who would love to own a Porsche.
Yeah.
I just chicken out every time it comes to car buying time because the numbers seem very, very big.
But other large things that are coming out, that have come out of the strategy, is the 911 is not going to be electric.
Until the time that it needs to be electric, at which point there will suddenly be an E911. Let's not pretend. Or 911E, because then they'll reuse an old moniker.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend that sure, for the next 5 years, that's not the plan.
And they're also going to be greater platform sharing with the VW group for greater efficiency and fewer layers of complexity. They're also, this will tie up with the VW group workforce reductions, other cost-cutting measures, and they're talking about the Porsche not building in Slovakia because they want to get back to a made in Germany as their SP.
Of course, when we've talked about Volkswagen Group now, we're talking about Porsche. I wonder how many of these things are tied in, because they're talking about workforce reductions and stuff. So it is quite chilling, though, the words of the chairman of the supervisory board, Dr. Wolfgang Porsche, saying, talking about the systematic implementation of the necessary measures and how these will be highly noticeable and in some cases uncomfortable.
Anyway, do you want to take us to America for this week's edition of whatever the lunatic regime is doing this time?
Speaking of countries that are struggling, oh boy, this one makes my head hurt. There is a new rule, the US's connected vehicle rule, and it restricts the import and sale of certain vehicles with hardware and software linked to China or Russia. Obviously, nobody sells Russian vehicles in the US or outside of Russia, but they do sell Chinese vehicles. You might have noticed them. You've probably gone, what the heck is that bland thing? And, you know, we all think of, BYDs, Geelys, Cheerys, whatever. Speaking of Geely, actually. But you don't necessarily think of Polestar as being, Polestar's headquarters used to be in Bicester, for example, when they were still a racing company. However, obviously, Polestar was part of Volvo. That makes it part of Geely, and that means it's Chinese. It shall be banished from the United States of Freedom. Volvo, however, will not be banished from the United States of Freedom, and neither, it seems, will Lotus be banished from the United States of Freedom, despite the fact that Volvo and Polestar are built in the same factory on the same production line. But somehow it doesn't count because it's a Volvo. I don't quite understand how Volvo came to some agreement with the US government, but Polestar didn't. Unless Volvo's agreement was, well, look, can we stay if we get rid of Polestar? Then you can say you have banished something, and then you look like big, powerful men.
Or it was money.
Because
we know that is a negotiating tactic from the President of the United States. Always demands money for menaces.
Give him a solid gold model Volvo or something, and he'll be simply delighted.
But it's fundamentally, if you're allowing Volvo, why are you not allowing Polestar? Can't work it out from a...
There's no logic to why this might be the case from anything that's public.
Yes. I'm going to take us on to Ferrari, and they have announced that their chief marketing and commercial officer, Enrico Galliera, is going to be replaced by Massimiliano Di Silvestre as of the 1st of July, so on the day of us recording tomorrow. So the day this comes out, today, after more than 16 years at the company, and he has decided to embark on a new chapter in his professional journey, which Ferrari was at pains to say a decision shared with the company some time ago. Now, I love the last 3 words of that sentence, some time ago, because that leaves it fantastically vague that it could have been a year ago, or it could have been 5 minutes before they sent this press release out.
Yes. It's quite wonderfully Italian.
Just aping JLR and what they did to the PR company who handled the announcement of the Jaguar rebranding.
The funny thing is, the trouble was that the Jaguar rebranding was too radical, whereas the problem here with the Ferrari one is that it's all a bit bland.
Yeah, but that makes it very radical.
It does, yes. So that's it.
For the expectations of the brand.
It's funny, but in both cases, they were not the brand expectation, as you quite rightly say. Worth mentioning that Di Silvestre previously served as president and CEO of BMW Group Italy, which is one of the group's most important global markets.
I know it says that, but I
don't know. I'm reading what it says here in this.
This is coming from Ferrari. They're not going to say, "Yeah, we plucked some bloke off the street, and he was in charge of something that, you know." Anyway, it was almost like a backwater.
I had missed the fact that this is word for word the Ferrari press release. In fact, it is the Ferrari press release. So
yes,
not even someone pretending to have rewritten something that was the Ferrari press release. Okay, so he is wonderfully qualified, and we're going to love him long time. Is basically the gist of the rest of this press release.
It is. I think the theme running through tonight's show is how all the companies are really struggling with comms and how to present information. Talking of which, Alan, do you want to take us to America?
On many levels. Yes, absolutely. Ford, a company with which I think both of us have dealt professionally outside of the podcast, with hilarious consequences, generally related to the joys of this kind of thing. Ford, via The Verge, and the story shared here is at futurism.com. Again, link in the show notes as always. Ford basically decided they didn't need a bunch of engineers, and they would replace them with AI. Now, I hate AI. I hate AI, among so many things. I hate AI as a term for covering just about everything which a computer can do these days, and it's driving me nuts. Because there's lots of things that computers have been doing for a long, long time, which all of a sudden is AI. But Ford decided that actually all of the knowledge that they needed, they already had somewhere.
I don't think they thought that. I don't think they even considered that. You read the quote from the Vice President of Vehicle Hardware Engineering, Charles Poon. Mistakenly, we thought that just by introducing artificial intelligence and adjusting the design requirements that we had, that would produce a high-quality product.
You see, I don't...
So what they did is they swallowed all the marketing, like so many have, that AI can do everything and it is almost sentient, blah, 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 all this nonsense that's out there, and they went, brilliant. We can get rid of 5,000 people, think of the savings, bosh, and off we go to the races.
Well, not necessarily Bosch. Probably ECW.
Oh, no, because Bosch just lost their CEO, actually, yesterday.
Yeah. And it's backfired. So what they've done is they've gone out and they're rehiring the engineers.
Some.
And they're rehiring some of the same engineers, because I'm sure some of the others told them exactly where they could stick this idea. And I hope the ones, by the way, that have agreed to come back have added at least a zero to the end of the amount of money they're looking for. Because
please
according to this article here, they've been hired back to basically download their knowledge to the AI. Maybe at some point in the future, the AI can replace them. The thing is that this is really quite a popular thing to do these days, to get rid of people who are maybe a little bit older, grey-haired and knowledgeable with experience, and decide that really you don't need those anymore because you've got some documentation, and then you discover that some things are just not documented anywhere, and you end up with people still coming back to the older grey-haired people and asking them how to do things and why things are the way they are.
Yep.
Allegedly.
I have a couple of problems with this.
I have many problems with this.
Well, yeah, there's obviously Ford's attitude to its workers is reprehensible. And any other company that does something like this, you're just beyond disgusting. And you deserve everything you get, frankly. But moving away from just that side of things, they've rehired or promoted or brought in new hires of 350 engineers. They lost 5,000 and they've brought back 350.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be quite a large difference in number. 350, 5,000. I'm not sure they're going to get the knowledge that they think they're going to get.
No, they're not.
And that's without anyone being a bit cute and poisoning the data anyway. But equally, what have we banged on about for many years about something to do with warranty costs for Ford?
What, you mean recalls?
Yes.
Ford hasn't had any of those. I mean, What was it last year? Was it one almost every day? No, not quite.
No, it was one every other day. It was like 150 odd.
Yeah.
152, I think.
Yeah, it was one every second day.
Breaking the record massively. I think the rest of the top 10 didn't make up enough to catch them up or something. It was something ridiculous like that.
These were the vehicles that were developed before these cuts
before
in
the AI,
weren't they? Yeah, before the AI.
Yeah, using...
Okay, so this is going to go well.
Oh, yeah, the people...
It gives us... It gives you an idea of how bad the AI was.
Yeah, absolutely. Just ridiculous. I don't think it's going to work at all in any shape or form until they adjust their culture, which they're not going to do, until they adjust their attitude. Like we were saying last week with JLR and their cultural attitude to quality and reliability. Until that changes, it's not going to change. No matter how many shiny presentations you do or stuff like that, saying we must all come together, whatever, we must save money. Until you make a move like JLR did with their security software for their cars, where they went, this has to work, and this is coming from the top down, then it won't change. And equally here, It's just going to fall on its face. Anyway, moving on, back to Germany, as we're playing ping pong across the Atlantic Ocean. Back to Germany, and talking of companies that don't really grasp certain aspects of modern car making, it's BMW and an over-the-air update. Dun, dun, dun.
It's your favourite.
Oh, dear.
Software is hard, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just remember that. Software is hard. Andrew had to listen to 3 or 4 minutes of me chuntering whilst my email client decided to be a prat earlier on this evening. And that was my email client. It doesn't really matter.
No, it is not a safety critical component at that moment.
Vehicular control software kind of does matter. But I don't know.
I mean, the only thing, and I don't really want to make light of this because the core concept of the problem is horrific, but at least this problem with the BMW, with the over-the-air update for i3s and i4s, was that suddenly a battery warning light came up, which said you had to replace your battery. And this is the 12-volt battery, which powers your infotainment and that sort of thing. It's not the battery pack for the motors of the car. It's that. And now BMW have looked into this because this news came out last week, and they have declared that you can ignore it. It doesn't matter. And we'll get round to sorting out this fake warning. But what you have done is you've introduced the fact that people might ignore a proper battery warning in the future because they'll go, oh, it's another one of those flaky over-the-air updates. But like I say, not to play this down, at least it wasn't releasing the handbrake or fiddling with the steering.
Yes, that could never go wrong for them. It's worth mentioning, by the way, it wasn't just 12-volt battery needs replacing. The message was quite verbose and explanatory.
Feels like I'm doing this every week.
You are.
Get it sorted. Get it sorted, because it's ridiculous. You're going to kill people. The problem is, at the minute, it's sometimes seen as a bit funny and a bit, oh, well, never mind. But they're going to do something that kills people. And that's the problem, because the attitude, again, going back to the culture and attitude, the culture and attitude is completely wrong for this. They don't understand how important it is. They may think they do, but they are demonstrating that they don't.
But it's cool for cars to do this stuff. Tesla does it. It's got to be fine.
Anyway, before my blood pressure gets any higher, I think that is the end of the first part of the show.
It is. And because it's the end of the first half of the show, that means it's Guilt Minute, a quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel that Motoring Podcast is worth small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. The different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We also have a small selection of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash and we do completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show in whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all of that, and some of you do, so thank you very much, then the last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues.
Thank you, everyone that does. Very much appreciated.
Yes. We like it lots. Thank you. It's very kind of
you. Alan, new car news, and to calm us down and bring us into some happier moments.
Massive change in atmosphere and theme for the rest of the show. Thank goodness for that. I was sure we should warn people at the beginning. Okay, it's going to be a bit intense for about 30 minutes or so. And then we shall chill the heck out and talk about cool things like the Morgan Midsummer Coupe by Pininfarina. Morgan is going to make 9 examples of its Midsummer Coupe. If you get one all black, is it a Midsummer Murder?
Very good.
Thank you. It will be built by Morgan, but with only 9 being built, it would be even rarer than the Roadster. It's maybe not quite as gothic in its design, its styling, as the Aeromax was. But the whole idea seems to be that actually this is a much lighter and brighter vehicle that you can drive all year round. It's maybe not quite as compromised in some ways. Things like there is actually a boot lid rather than little windows that open if the wind catches them the wrong way and thing. I think Morgan engineers stuff a bit differently now than how they did maybe 20 years ago. But it's really cool. We could go into all the specs of the turbocharged 3-litre straight 6 BMW engine that's also used in the Supersport 400. means it has 402 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque going to the rear wheels. But really, that's part of what it's all about. But really, surely it's about the theatre. Things like that stainless steel spar across the top and just...
Yeah. All the glass as well.
Yeah.
Because the glass, the rear windows are epic, and then it goes over the top of the roof. And then obviously you've got the almost vertical front windscreen.
But it's got like actual windows and stuff these days. It's so cool. I really recommend clicking through to the Motoring Research article that's linked, because they've got a really nice selection of press photos from sort of all angles and in big and uncropped. So there's loads of space. It just makes the car look even cooler.
Yeah.
Love it. Brilliant. Yeah. Fantastic.
Well done, Morgan. Fantastic, as you say, but a fantastic collaboration. Picking Pininfarina, but they seem to be... I don't think they've got a rough model at the minute in their lineup.
And none of them, by the way, are going to be the same, because there's 9 of them. So if you're commissioning it, not buying it, commissioning it, then you are going to make it the way you want it. So I'm sure there isn't a particularly strict sort of price limit or sort of price list in there. There was something I was going to mention. Oh, yes, if you do want to see it, this prototype, which is in all the photos, it's going to join the Lohmann collection in The Hague. That will be rather cool as well. So it will be on display. It will be possible to see it. I'm sure it might be a few months, I think, before it gets there. I suppose the Lohmann collection, well worth visiting. I should go sometime. Cool. Next time I'm in that part of the continent, I might try and make it.
Okay, I'm going to take us to something that's going to be a bit more everyday for us to see, and that is the Skoda Peaq. This is their largest ever vehicle. It's a 7-seat SUV, 400-mile range, that is going to be on the MEB platform. It's 4.87 meters long. Therefore, it is almost as big as a Discovery and the XC90. That's quite large. And even with the rear seats up, it'll still have a hair's breadth under 300 litres in the boot space.
Please, sir, if this is the biggest ever, why does the current generation of Skoda Superb, why is it a little bit longer at 4.902 metres?
Well, that's because I'll have said it wrong then.
No, I don't think you've said it wrong. I thought you said it right. It says it's 4.87.
I'm sure I'd seen that somewhere else, but
4.87, which is less. That's less than the number for
I have implied, because of that, I have said something that was factually incorrect.
Have you?
Yeah, because this isn't the biggest.
No.
This is not on this article. I'd seen that elsewhere.
But it says here, as befits the biggest thing it's ever created, the Peaq's MEB platform crests 4.87 metres long.
Okay.
And the Superb Estate is longer than that. Not a lot longer, but it is longer. And we had this problem with Lexus the other week.
Yes.
That's what made me go look this up. In that, I wish they would sort out their ruddy press releases. It's not the biggest. Don't say it's the biggest.
Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, fact-checking the automotive news world since 2015.
Just because it's on a press release doesn't mean it's true, everyone. I'm sorry. I mean, most of the time it is. But blooming heck, I shall get back into my nerd box.
Anyway, thank you for pointing that out. I thought I was wrong, and I wasn't wrong. Mm-hmm. Well, I was wrong, but I was quoting wrongness from others.
Yes, you weren't wrong in yourself. Which nobody says that to you very often. But
No, they don't, if at all. Anyway, if you decide to go for the 5-seat car, your boot is 935 litres. I'm presuming that's up to the bottom of the windows. I don't think they do we go all the way to the roof to measure.
No, places do it to the window line now.
It is electric, and you can then spec for a 91 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which will give you 282 brake horsepower, 402 pound-feet of the torques, and this will then go from 0 to 62 in 7.1 seconds in something like that. That is way too quick. Or even if you get the all-wheel drive, then it'll do it in 6.7 seconds. Wow. If you go for the smaller battery pack, which is 63 kilowatt, you'll get up to 280 miles, and the the larger pack I was just saying before in rear-wheel drive only does 397 miles, whilst the all-wheel drive does 379 miles.
Whew. So they all do some miles then. Yeah, that's what I've just got out there.
Big car with a big battery pack, so very heavy, will do a lot of miles. Big car with a smaller battery pack will still do a respectable amount of mileage.
Yes, that sounds about right. That's what I understood from all of that.
The prices are going to start at $51,980, and as you move up the range, it will top out at £58,280 before you tick the option stuff. I think it's a decent-looking car. I do like Skoda's design language at the moment, I have to say. But that is... I wonder whether that price is something where people go, oh, wow, for a Skoda.
I don't think people do that anymore.
But they have always been seen as the more affordable brand.
Yeah.
That is not pricing it as an affordable brand. But I know we've argued a lot in the past at the point that it being electric rips up a lot of the old rule books.
Yeah. In the olden days, this would have been an Audi. All of this, and it would have been an Audi.
Yeah.
Which leads us down the path of, so what's an Audi? And I don't have a question. I don't have an answer for that these days. I'm afraid I find that very difficult. I can tell you what a Cooper is. I can even tell you what a Seat is. It's the budget brand that Skoda used to be. But I can't tell you what an Audi is. It's a funny one, that.
Yeah.
It really is. Anyway, meanwhile, back at the EV pump, last one, not a car you're ever going to be able to buy. If you thought the Midsummer Coupe was rare, then I reckon that this one is going to stay much rarer, because really it's a proof of concept. And it's Shell's 1010 Challenge EV concept. It's a small 5-door electric car, which does 6.2 miles per kilowatt hour and can get an 80% charge in under 10 minutes. But I can't see quickly here at a glance it's just what range it does.
No, I've been struggling to find that as well.
But it is clearly optimized for, it's going to be at least 300 miles. If it's not 300 miles, I will be amazed. The whole idea is that it has the reason it's called 1010, right, is because it's got 3 key targets. That's 10 kilometers per kilowatt hour of charging, hence 6.2. Having a 10-ton CO2 life cycle footprint and a recharging time of less than 10 minutes. There's a bunch of different things there, hence 1010. It's been developed in the UK by British companies. One of the things that they're really looking at here, and one of the things that it's showing off, is the thermal management of the fluid cooling of the battery. Because, of course, if the more efficiently you can cool the battery, the quicker you can charge the battery. Because the big problem there is the heat buildup. And that's really one of the things that it's all about. And obviously companies like Shell are having to try to diversify these days, because selling as dyno juice for our cars is, in most cases, something that we're doing less and less of, or at least buying less and less of it. There's other stuff that Shell has to do and want to make up the shortfall. And some of that is of course, the thermoelectric fluids for battery cooling and stuff. Impulse Systems developed the electric motor and drive unit, and RML in Wellingborough worked on the battery and the integration as well. So that's all kind of cool. Some of the stuff on it, by the way, things like the alloy wheels, or what look like alloy wheels on it from a distance, they're not. They're aero disc wheels with a design printed on them to look more conventional, that kind of thing. So to try and keep it looking like a generic small car, and I think it succeeds at that. I think it's a really cool concept. I'd love to know a bit more about it.
I love the fact that they're experimenting with this. They're trying to think of new ways around a problem so they can make smaller, lighter vehicles. I can almost hear Near Khan punching the air at the idea of this.
It's not sporty enough for Near. Otherwise, very much up his street.
Yes. But no, I hope it's successful. I hope they keep trying to develop this, and eventually that means we see these more efficient and better smaller cars that have ranges comparable, or make up for lack of range by being comparable in terms of able to refuel very quickly.
This is a big switch, I feel. And we've known it was going to happen at some point. So for ages and ages and ages, it was like, right, how big can we make our batteries to get our range? How big can we? And we always knew that there was going to be a point where that stopped being... People would finally stop looking at the size of the fuel tank by how they judged an EV. And that eventually it would turn into, hang on, we can't keep on doing this. We need to work on efficiency and work out about that. It's one of the reasons we're doing Recharge Around Britain, is to see what the efficiency is like if that kind of thing has changed. And it's tricky because we chose just about the most efficient one 10 years ago.
Yeah, and in that time, very, very little that's come along since. It's only happened like in the last year, has been even comparable, let alone more efficient.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons the vehicle we're going to be using is what it is, because that is pretty much spot on the same efficiency-wise. But that's a decade later. It's a smaller vehicle, but it's a decade later.
Despite the wailing and gnashing of PRs trying to persuade us to choose something bigger. But yeah.
Yes.
And then ultimately agreeing with us. It's good to see stuff like that, concepts that are real style cars.
Yeah.
Not just something that's completely wacky, and showing off just what you could do with them were they productionized. Very cool.
I agree. Yeah, love seeing this. Anyway, it's points of interest, and I'm going to start with a lunchtime read from Haggerty.
I'd forgotten that this was the lunchtime read, by the way, when I was talking a few minutes ago.
And thanks to Nathan Chadwick for another excellent article, and it is titled Audi 80 at 60, the saloon that built modern Audi. When Alan did know what Audi was all about.
Even then, I still wasn't sure. Yeah.
It goes into the history of the 80 and how important it was to the company, particularly going into the 80s and 90s. We're still using the same numbers here. 80s and 90s. And what a fabulous car. I remember seeing a lot of them because I had a family member. He kept getting these as company cars before he got senior enough to get to the 100 and the 200 range.
All right. You see, remember my dad was E30 BMWs.
Yeah.
All through this, it was always BMW.
Yeah. Wonderful explanation of the history. As ever, Nathan always brings out a bunch of snippets and information that I didn't know, or bits I sort of knew but had forgotten. This is no exception to that. Do click the link in the show notes. Do enjoy it, and then fondly remember Audis before they became SUV coupes.
If anyone can actually tell me what the difference between an Audi 80 and an Audi 90 was, I would actually genuinely appreciate that, because I still don't really understand.
I tried to explain that it was one had an 80 on the back and one had a 90, and that wasn't sufficient for him.
That's yes, I'd sort of, that was the level I'd made it to, but I don't really know. And not understanding Audi model designations hasn't really changed over the years for any of us. Yeah. The new A5 estate, is it? I've seen a couple of them around, by the way. They're really, they're aggressive as heck and look like they've been on the steroids, but they're a good-looking thing.
It was in my top 3 for UK Car of the Year.
It's quite something.
Having driven one. It made driving very easy.
I'm sure. It looks like it would do. Yes, it looks like it could make crossing continents very easy. Anyway, sorry. Off on that tangent of mine brings us to List of the Week. And what I'm hoping is one of our listeners has discovered that if you write a List of the Week, the chances are that we'll cover it. Thanks to Juanma Tazzian, feel free to correct me on that, I'm so sorry, mate, for the 116 years of Alfa Romeo, 31 cars he drew in a month-long celebratory project. It's on his Creating Lightly newsletter and blog. You can see the first 5 without having to log in or create a sign-up for free. So do, please, sign up for the newsletter. It comes out on Sunday. It's really good.
Yeah. It's
an enjoyable little read. It doesn't often make it into the show, but it does get browsed through and read, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
We do still read it.
Yeah. And then you get something like this, which is really cool, genius. Andrew, in amongst these 31, we've got room for one each, but in amongst these 31, what's your take? I can kind of guess what it might be, but then that might be a bit predictable. So
it could have been many, many, many.
Yes.
which is a bit of a problem. This is a wonderful list, but if you need to just pick one, it's a right git of a list, I have to say.
Well, it is 116 years of Alfa Romeo, and generally picking a favourite Alfa Romeo is a bit of a git of a task.
And I have to say, I love the art style that was picked to do the drawing. I love the just two colours being used.
Yeah,
I thought it's really good decision, and I love the that.
Would make an awesome T-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. What I will then pick is the Giulia TI Super from 1962, which is number 14. That
was a strong contender for me. That very much was it. Was a strong contender for me.
I've changed my mind 3 times just in you speaking, by the way.
I can believe it. This again. We're back to stuff we've talked about before. This is a phenomenally modern car.
Yeah, the innovation. It's so frustrating looking at the Italian car industry now. When you look at, we said this recently when we were doing something about Italian cars. Lancia. Yeah, they are so ahead of their time. They were so innovative. They've created stuff that we now just take for granted, but decades and decades ago. And this is another example of that. How about you?
So I did actually. I went for something newer, and I keep changing my mind as well. I have changed my mind yet again. So I'm going to go for, I think, number 25.
25.
I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the Alfa Romeo Brera. Now, it gets quite a lot of bad press.
Look great, though.
From some corners, but I think they look great. And it's one of those cars that breaks loads of rules for me, in that there was a kind of satin grey, matte, not quite matte grey they did. And I figured that some of the higher spec Brera in that just looked fantastic. And kind of menacing, kind of cool. It's always looked like, I've never driven one, but it looked like a comfortable car. It looked like it had space. It looked so many things that would sort of tick the boxes.
Tick the Allen boxes.
Without being overly practical.
Yes.
I really like it. I've always liked it, and I figure it should get an honourable mention. There are so many others I could have chosen, but they were all a little bit more predictable, maybe.
Yeah, I worked with a chap who had one of those. It was a lovely thing. Lovely thing. Nice. Yeah, they look great. I saw one at the weekend, actually. They still look outstanding, in my opinion.
They do. You could still kind of launch it today, really, and I don't think people would bat too much of an eyelid.
No. Anyway, that means the and finally. And...
This is an absolute cracker.
I don't know how I stumbled across it. It must have been a YouTube recommendation to me, because I didn't go searching for this or anything. But we were bringing a video of Mike Hawthorne filming and narrating his own lap as he drives around Le Mans in 1956 in a D-Type Jaguar.
Not a closed course Le Mans either.
Absolutely. What I didn't realise is, whereas today you often hear it in the commentary, and of course this is a public road most of the time, blah, blah, blah. When they were testing and, the week leading up to the race, the road was still used by the public. And you will find that out very soon into this, and it's just wonderful. And his voice is, it is 1950s BBC.
You could cut glass with it.
Male BBC voice.
You could absolutely cut glass with it. It is fabulous. The whole thing is fabulous. That there was a film camera strapped to a D-Type Jaguar, and he had a microphone, and it wouldn't have been like a little lapel mic or anything. It must have been a proper microphone somewhere down near his mouth.
It was. I think
quality
it was
pretty good.
Held on his or something round his neck, and then it's held just in front of his mouth, so he can still obviously use the gears and the steering wheel and everything.
There's no Insta360 being used here, folks.
No drone shots.
No gimbals, no drone shots. This is properly raw. It's fabulous. It's so good. And it's 5.5 minutes, or just under 6 minutes long. Worth every second of it. You might well have seen it before. It's been up with Duke Video. It's been on since 13th of January 2017, but I don't care. It's great. Watch it. Take 6 minutes out of your day.
Yep.
Yes, I like when we end on something like that. That makes me very happy indeed.
Well, the whole second half was a much happier part of the show.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, back on track. No specific parish notes this week. I think we're good. Fabulous. In which case, everyone, don't forget between now and next week, you can give us any feedback, share your thoughts for the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at motoringpodcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of www.motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is if you search for Crack Windscreen on Blue Sky, or I am on LinkedIn under my name. And Alan, if people would like to get in touch with you personally, maybe to explain the difference between an Audi 80 and an Audi 90, what is the best way for them to do that?
That would be very appreciated. Best way is Blue Sky, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BRADLEY.bsky.social. I am also, like Andrew, on LinkedIn under my own name. Should be easy enough to find. We'll be back very soon. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.